Welcome to session 50 of Through the Bible in 90 Days. Today we will look at three takeaways from Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1 through Isaiah chapter 28, verse 29. How God's sovereignty is supreme and he humbles the proud no matter how powerful they seem. How even in judgment, God promises a future restoration for his people. How God's wisdom is key to understanding his plans and finding peace in the midst of chaos. I'm Dr. J. David Taylor. Remember to subscribe, like, follow, comment, and share. Let's get started. Takeaway 1. God's sovereignty is supreme, and he humbles the proud no matter how powerful they seem. Now, in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 3 to 23, the passage famously speaks of the fall of the king of Babylon, a symbol of human pride and self-exaltation. Now, Babylon, once a mighty empire, is brought low because of its arrogance and its opposition and oppression of God's people. This prophecy reveals that no nation or ruler can withstand God's judgment when they exalt themselves above God's will. Now, for believers today, this passage serves as a stark reminder that pride, whether in individuals or nations, will be humbled by God's mighty hand. This lesson to us is to guard against pride in our own lives and to remember that humility before God is always the right posture. The scripture says this in Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken nations? Isaiah 14:13 goes on to say, and thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Takeaway 2. Even in judgment, God promises a future restoration for his people. Now, in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 1 to 2, God promises to bring his people back from exile and restore them to their land. Now, this promise of restoration comes after the judgment upon Babylon, showing that while God is just and his judgment is real, he also has a plan for the redemption and renewal of his people. So for believers today, this passage provides hope even in seasons of discipline. God is working towards our ultimate restoration and peace. His justice leads to the blessing of his people. And no matter how bleak our circumstances may seem, God's promises of restoration stand firm. The scripture says this in Isaiah 14:1, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. Isaiah 14:2 goes on to say, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. Takeaway 3. God's wisdom is the key to understanding his plans and finding peace in the midst of chaos. Now, in Isaiah chapter 28, particularly verses 23 to 29, God portrays God's wisdom in the way he deals with his people and the nations. God is not arbitrary in his judgment. His actions are deeply rooted in wisdom. The people are warned about their failure to heed God's instructions, and they are urged to listen carefully to his guidance. This teaches us that God's wisdom is the foundation of true understanding. Now, for believers today, this passage encourages us to seek God's wisdom in all areas of life, recognizing that his ways are always better than our own. Now, God's wisdom leads to peace and stability, especially in uncertain times. The scripture says this in Isaiah 28:23, give ye ear and hear my voice, hearken and hear my speech. Isaiah 28:29 says, this also cometh forth from the Lord of hosts, which is wonderful in counsel and excellent in working. Have you ever faced a time when everything around you seemed to be falling apart? The nation, it seems, are always in conflict. And sometimes we feel as though we're just small, insignificant people in the midst of it all. But in Isaiah chapter 14 and 28, we see God's sovereign hand at work in both judgment and restoration. Despite the overwhelming power of empires like Babylon, God promises that he will restore his people. The key to understanding God's work in our lives and in the world is God's wisdom, a wisdom that is both just and restorative. The question is, how do we align ourselves with God's wisdom in everyday life? So the core challenge is just this. In the midst of judgment and in the midst of chaos, can we trust that God's sovereignty and wisdom will lead us to restoration? In Isaiah 14, we see the fall of Babylon, the symbol of pride and power. Yet, even in this judgment, God promises restoration for his people. In Isaiah 28, God's wisdom is offered to those who are willing to listen, yet many reject it. The real issue isn't about the world's power or our circumstances. It's about whether we will trust in God's wisdom and whether we will trust in God's timing, even when we don't fully understand the way forward. Will we surrender to his plan, knowing that his judgment always works towards redemption? What if we saw God's judgment not as something to fear, but as the means through which he refines and restores his people? See, the fall of Babylon is a powerful reminder that no kingdom or nation, no matter how powerful, can stand against God's sovereign will. Yet at the same time, God promises restoration to those who seek his wisdom and heed his call. The breakthrough idea is just this. In the midst of judgment, God is also working for the ultimate good of his people. And his wisdom provides the pathway to peace, even when the world around us seems in turmoil. See, we can trust God that God's judgment always leads to restoration, and that it always leads to peace for those who follow his wisdom. So right now, this is your moment to make a choice. Will you choose to align your life with God's wisdom and trust that his plans for you are good, even when they involve times of difficulty or correction? See, God's wisdom is available to those who seek it, and it will lead to true peace and true restoration. And just as he promised to restore Israel after their exile, he promises to restore us when we return to him with humility and faith. See, God is in control of every season of life, and his justice is always perfect. Will you choose to trust in his wisdom and his guidance, even when it's hard? I challenge you today. Will you choose to trust God's sovereignty and wisdom, even in the midst of the challenges you face right now? Will you allow his judgment and discipline to refine you, knowing that he is working for your ultimate good? Isaiah teaches us that God is not distant or indifferent to our struggles. He is actively at work in every situation, using his wisdom to guide us and restore us. So now is the time to align yourself with his plan, to seek his wisdom, and to trust that his promises of restoration will be fulfilled. Will you take that step today? In response to the love of God, I have 3 personal declarations reflecting my personal willingness to align with God's divine plan. I declare that I will trust in God's sovereignty over my life and the world, knowing that his plans are always for my good. I declare that I will seek God's wisdom in every area of my life, trusting that his wisdom leads to peace and restoration. I further declare that I will submit to God's correction, knowing that he refines and restores me through his perfect judgment. My time is up. I'm Dr. J. David Taylor. Thank you for joining me. Please remember to subscribe, like, follow, comment, and share. I look forward to seeing you next time.